The only difference is right here on the V60 is a prox line that comes off of the leak port that goes back to the V60. On Trilogy, we don't need that. So you can cut it and cap it, or you can leave it laying on the floor, which most people don't do because someone's going to walk in and look at you like if you lost your mind. Your circuit's not hooked up. So generally you're going to want to cap it or address it. You can cut it and cap it however you want to do it, just so you don't get yelled at. But the leak is irrelevant, and it just doesn't need that port, okay, for Trilogy. All right, from there, let's come back to how the machine actually works. I hit reset. The machine first turned on. It didn't have power coming out of the wall, so it told me it started on battery. Okay, so now I know I'm on battery. It told me I am. Detachable battery was disconnected. It logs it. Anytime anything happens on the vent, it's going to run it into its log. It keeps 1,000 messages in there. So it keeps a lot of information in there. This guy works like an old school flip open cell phone. You flip it open, you got the little thing to go up, the little thing to go down, the little left. I love it when I see everyone's head going that way, going up and down. I hit menu. To get into menu, I arrow up. I scroll down. I've got Bluetooth, waveforms, a little card to record all the information, settings and alarms. I have either exit or select, so I hit select. I've got dual prescription capability. What's it mean? I got two types of settings. I can set this up for a patient where setting number 1 is daytime settings, setting number 2 is nighttime settings, or number 1 is travel settings. They're more active, and then number 2 is another type of setting. We can go from invasive to non-invasive. Literally, they're hooked to the trach at night and then off, and then wearing a mask with the cuff down on the other way, on the A/B. So you can set this up a whole multitude of ways. Modes. It's a ventilator, life support, volume control, pressure control. But it also has, of course, SAMV. We don't use that much anymore. No PRVC, no APRV, nothing that advanced. It's just volume control, pressure control, and non-invasive ventilation. Do you guys use AVAPs on your V60s? You do? Okay. So AVAPs is on here as well. So I'm currently in pressure control, and I can turn AVAPs on in pressure control, and I have an AVAPs rate. That's how many centimeters of water it can go up and down in a minute. And I can say I want to target a volume on, let's say, a kid, and I want 175. So I go okay, and I set my brackets. I'm going to use a minimum pressure of 10 and a maximum pressure of 20. In pressure control, time will still be the time constant, but the pressure will go up and down like PRVC to maintain volume. It's our version of doing that same type of thinking. So I can still volume target within pressure control on a kid with AVAPs. EPAP is CPAP, which is PEEP. It's all the same thing. It's FRC, right? So that's going to be your PEEP setting. Your breath rate is how many breaths per minute they're going to get. On a kid, I imagine we'd be using, 20 or higher. My inspiratory time for any of the mechanical breaths. On an adult, 1 second. Trigger type, auto track. Towards the end, I'll show you what auto track sensitive, and flow trigger. Okay, on it. What do you guys use now?
Pressure, volume,
trigger. Pressure or flow trigger? Mm-hmm. Now, what's everyone's favorite flow trigger?
3.
2 or 3. Depends.
It's always 3. Know why? We don't know why.
3 over 6. I don't know.
I know this. If you take an 840 and you put the trigger below 1 liter per minute, it'll auto cycle. On a lot of other vents, 3 is the standard number because that's just the safe point where the machine won't auto cycle. Mm-hmm. So that's generally why we set that there. So rise time controls, just like you used to using on your Vision or your V60s. You can do ramps on this, nebulizer enabled. So if you turn that on, and we'll continue on down, disconnect alarm. Apnea alarm on here is not backup ventilation.
Oh.
It's just an apnea alarm.
To say, hey.
Hey, they went apneic. It's got a backup rate, just like the V60 does, right? It's going to breathe for the patient. No involvement needed. But that alarm will drive you insane because every time they have an apnea, it'll go, they went apneic. And you're going, yeah, duh, but I got a backup rate of 14 set. I don't care. So you don't generally set the apnea alarm unless you are using spontaneous modes where you actually are concerned if somebody has an apneic event. And then, of course, you got all your regular alarms, volume alarms, ventilation alarm, and everything else. To keep these settings, I hit finish. It says, you sure? You want to keep those settings? Yes, I do. So now I'm in passive circuit with a leak, right? Doesn't say active. Everyone know what an active circuit is? Ever work with the LTV? That's an active circuit. It's got a mushroom valve out here that's this big. And the valve goes back to, the lines come back to the machine. And when the patient gets air, it goes, how do I exhale? Oh, the machine goes, oh, let's open the valve. Mechanical valve in and out to let the patient closed. Pressure goes in, fills them up. Open, elastance occurs, volume goes out. Little valve out here, okay? That is an active circuit valve. This device can be used with an active circuit or a passive circuit, okay? But most of the home care providers today, and Aloha Respiratory, which is Maddie right over there, they're taking all the trach patients here, you guys are discharging, on either mask or trach, and they're being put on a non-invasive circuit, heated wire with heated humidifiers, just like you would do on your V60s. Hey, Andy.
Gonna grab it, yeah.
Gonna play with the monitor. All right. So again, I'm done with all my settings. I hit exit, and I'm just back to my charting
Let's
information.
look at the ones from my room then.
So I got passive, pressure control, AVAPs. I can see what my CPAP pressure is. It's 5. EPAP, PEEP. My respiratory rate, whatever my average volumes were. If I had it on a real patient, this is on a little leak port, so I'm not seeing anything. This is the actual leak information. On a traditional ventilator, you get a leak, you're going to auto-cycle. Trilogy could care less about leak, just like your V60. So Trilogy can leak compensate easily up to about 75, 80 liters per minute. You start getting above 80, your leak is too big. You will start having triggering and cycling problems. If your mask leak is 100, time to refit the mask. So ideal leak on a V60 should be somewhere between about 18 and 35. You start getting into 45 and 50, you got mask fitting issues. Same thing with this. Trilogy is a little more forgiving than V60 because it has a little higher leak compensation capability. Okay? So that's how everything works. If I was to put a nebulizer in line and I grabbed my little blue elbow and I stuck it in here and I'm going to tee in my neb treatment and I'm going to run 7 liters off of the wall, the machine doesn't know I'm doing that. What it does is with all that extra 7 liters per minute, all of a sudden this leak information that it's looking at appears to go down and you'll get a low leak alarm. You're adding in all this extra gas, it assumes that's happened. And all of a sudden a low leak is occurring. And so it'll give you a low leak alarm on a patient. If you don't hit nebulizer, I'm doing a neb treatment, it tells the low leak alarm to shut up for 15 minutes, to buy you 15 minutes to do a neb treatment. A lot of RTs use this as an alarm feature because when their neb's empty, if the alarm's going off with low leak, your treatment's done. It's been 15 minutes, right? Should have been out of the room, right? Aren't we supposed to do those one-on-one neb treatments? Okay. So at a lot of the facility stuff, they use it intentionally that way. They hit the button, they know they got 15 minutes, they hear the alarm going off for low leak, they know their neb's over. Just the way the world works. If I had to get back in for settings, I'm going to come up to my menu, settings and alarms. I'm going to change my mode again. I'm going to come in. There's AVAPS AE. You guys know what AVAPS is. You guarantee you don't know what AE is. Auto EPAP. Okay, so you got volume targeted pressure support, right, for AVAPS. That's really what it is. You're picking a volume. And the bottom of that volume is going to be the minimum pressure, and the max is going to be up here at the max pressure to get to that volume, right? Kind of like PRVC, but it's flow cycle. It's pressure support based. The AE on Trilogy is auto EPAP. Every 30 to 60 breaths, it'll do this little sound, and you'll hear the air going. And what it's doing, it's pulsing the airway